and you wake up really early in the morning, maybe something more for you is to be opening up a breakfast place or a bakery, right? Those are the kind of things you have to know about yourself in your self-interview. But if you decide that you're going to be in a particular have a space in a particular area, you know, your cousin is a real estate agent, is giving you a great deal, he knows of a restaurant that didn't work, and he wants to give you 6 months rent free and all of that, and you take it because it seems so cheap up front, and you have this brilliant concept, and you don't know who your neighbors are. These are office people who go to lunch at 12 in 2 cycles, from 12 to 1 and 1 to 2, and you only have a dinner menu because that's your concept. You're not going to make it, and you completely misread your neighbor. The neighbor is very different from your community. This becomes very interesting. Community is something that you can't really touch. You can't say they're all the people around this my restaurant. They could be, but a community is something that you build these really important intangible networks with. So it could be maybe your neighbors are all business people, multicultural, but your community is a Chinese community between the ages of 30 to 50. That community is stuff that you do community building programs with that will help your business. You'll be lucky if your community and your neighbors are the same. But community are those people who are willing to drive hours, find some kind of park, or take the bus and find a way to get to you. Your neighbors are just the people who conveniently happen to be around. And you need to build and understand both. Because when one is not doing so well, is not coming to your restaurant, is when you can tap into the other. Community building becomes really important in the way you have to think about your concept. Can you describe your restaurant in 5 words? 5 words is very important, right? Somebody says, what's your restaurant, right? It's Beijing duck, fine dining, in Markham, right? 200 seats. That's all of that basic information you can give somebody so that they have some static image in their head. The last thing is, what's your tagline? You have to think about this. Because your tagline, like think about KFC. Does everyone know KFC's tagline? No? Finger licking good.
I saw they did chicken right.
Right, now it's changed. McDonald's. I love it. That's right, I'm loving it. Right? The tagline is that thing where people will always remember. They may forget your name of your restaurant. Right? But the tagline is that thing that's going to make them feel something. Right? Beijing duck, Markham's Beijing duck is not really, the people are not going to feel like inspired by it. But the tagline is that thing where people go like that. And that becomes really important. Now, your tagline can have something to do with your community building, right? It can have something to do with the actual food or service. But when you're thinking about the name of your restaurant, make sure you also have a tagline, because that gives your concept texture and depth and meaning, and something where people go like that. In the 1990s, he was in big trouble. He's a German millionaire, and he was with Brian Mulroney involved in the Airbus scandal. So he gave Brian Mulroney $300,000 in our former Prime Minister $300,000 in an envelope. Anyways, he was my boss. And one of the things that he did was he opened up this concept called RETO, R-E-T-O, and the machine. And RATO on the machine was this concept where he had developed a pasta making machine where you press a button and pasta, whether it's spaghetti or penne, comes down after 30 seconds fully cooked properly. And that's a very good idea. How do you get it instant? Then what he decided to do was he said, okay, I want to open it up in food courts. Brilliant idea, great location. Because in food courts, what you have is a market that's going to be coming to your restaurant between 12 to 2 o'clock. And you have to get as many people through that line as possible. And so that's, and pasta was hard to do very quickly in takeout. And so what does he do? He says, let's do all of the food courts in the downtown business district. And we do pasta very, very quickly. And it worked. Then he decided, I want to move this concept into a cafe and small bistro form. So we opened up Commerce Court, TD, all of the downtown business district food courts. And then when he said he wanted to move and create a bistro, a full dining bistro, in other words, people sit and eat, up at Yonge and Eglinton, almost immediately it failed. But the problem was he not only wanted to do it at Yonge and Eglinton, but he also wanted to do it in a number of locations in Calgary and Vancouver and all of that. He wanted to maximize. So he wanted to maximize his revenue and his profitability by taking this concept into a bistro situation and in locations where people were sitting down to eat. And it failed miserably, and the reason why is because if you have a pasta machine that cooks pasta in 30 seconds, nobody has a dining experience. What that means is you're trying to make the food as quickly as possible and keep people passing through the line. So the problem was when we opened up these bistros, there was 4 locations across Canada that we opened. Nobody wanted to sit down. So we took up locations that had 20 to 40 seats, and nobody ever sat down to eat. And it destroyed the concept. After 3 years, we closed all the shops down and we sold the machines to high-end supermarkets. That's where location and concept don't meet up together. And if you're really good at QSR in business districts, do not be thinking about opening up a bistro in a residential area. Okay.
OK， 第5步就是我们说 location。那么对餐馆来说呢，地点是至关重要的。你做的品类和地点是不是能够契合起来，这是另一个很重要的要考虑的一点。如果地点好，品类不对，或者品类好了，但是地点又不适合这个品类，那么也是注定不能完全成功的。其中一个例子就是在 Maroni 那个年代呢，曾经大家不知道知不知道，就是有一个德国商人给了他3000块钱，后来 Maroni 这个前总理就被告上了法庭。这个德国商人呢，其实当过他的老板。这德国商人当时他们发明的一种机器，这个机器呢就是意面的即时快熟的这样一个机器，30秒钟呢，这个意面不论是什么类型的意面，是铅笔面还是铜管面还是螺旋面，就已经做熟了。他们这个机器呢获得成功之后，他们就想在商业区的这种美食广场开这种很快的这种意面的这样的一个小的想法和概念。当时在美食广场是成功的，因为在美食广场呢，它的体量非常大，而且总量。成功之后呢，他们就想迅速扩张，不光是在多伦多，在其他的城市也做，所以他们一共开了4间餐馆，是在一种大家坐下来这种简餐快餐的形式，而且呢，从商业区也去到了住宅区。可是呢，这个想法呢就失败了。 因为当你有30秒钟就能够吃到一盘这个简式一餐的话呢，大家不想坐下来吃，也没有必要，也没有这个想法。所以当时这4间店呢，因为这个原因，就是说你的这个品类是好的，但是呢选择地点和商圈是错的。因为这个方法呢，因为这个原因呢，就有这样的一个失败。另外他还说到，比如说如果大家想开一个buffet，一个这样的自助餐，那像自助餐呢，食物成本呢是一个很重要关键大家要把控的地方。还有自助餐呢一定是要走量的，如果你在一个人流量不大的地方和其他的品类去竞争，这也是一个很危险的。所以开自助餐一定要非常对 location 有更大的这个要求。后来他们在这个失败了之后呢，就把这几台机器就卖到超市去了。所以他就用的这个想法，用的是这个例子来跟大家讲那个地点的重要性和品类的这种配合度。
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
QSR is quick service restaurant. Okay, so now you have the right concept and you found the right location, and the landlord has given you a box. Okay? You have to figure out what you want to do in this space. This is what, when it comes to designing the space properly, it's a true science and art. If you are opening up a restaurant for the very first time, do not be designing the space yourself. Okay? Find a proper restaurant design company to do it, because there's a number of issues around it. The issue of how do you brand the room so that it reflects, it expresses your values and what you want. How do you maximize the potential of each seat? One of the first common mistakes I see from people who open up restaurants for the first time is it has everything to do with ego. See, when they open up a restaurant the first time, they want to show off. So how do they do that? They don't focus on things like the kitchen or the washrooms, because the kitchen, most kitchens, people don't see it. Washroom, you think you don't really care. But for me, in designing a restaurant, kitchen comes first, restaurants come second, dining room comes, and bar comes third. You know when a restaurant is driven by ego, by what percentage of the finances have gone into the look of a dining room. And you usually know because they're not maximizing usage of space, they're not utilizing space in an intelligent kind of way. If you are going to open up the Chinese people, they pray for a very long time, huh? Like yeah?
12:30.
Oh, it's not? Okay. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I'm not a Christian, so I don't know what this is all about. But here's the thing. You'll understand something about chairs. Just to take a very basic thing like a chair and its utility. If you want fine dining, in other words, somebody's going to be sitting in your restaurant for 2.5 hours, drinking great wine, eating flights of food, right? And you give them a chair that's very uncomfortable, that doesn't have a back. It sends the absolute wrong message to them, and you're not going to have customers for very long. But if it's lunch-style service, where you need people in and out of there in 35, 40 minutes, what you don't want to do is you don't want to give them really comfortable chairs, right? You want to give them the kind of chairs that's just meant to sit for 35, 40 minutes so they can get the heck out. So right around then is when they start feeling uncomfortable. So from chairs to tables and all of that in the space, a lot of things to think about. Ego plays a really, really important role in this. You have to ask yourself, what are my ideas? So my original idea is that I was going to open a restaurant in 5,000 square feet of space, okay? And it's going to take all of my ideas that I could put in there.
including the way the design of the tables and chairs, the way the bar and the dining room are joined, the way the kitchen is joined with the bar and dining room and all of that. But very few people get their ideal space. It's not like you think of a concept and then somebody just creates that space for you so your concept fits in. It works the other way. You have a space and the space creates problems, obstacles for you, and you have to solve those problems. So the way I think about ideas in a restaurant space is which are the ideas that you're willing to give up. You have to make those decisions before you go see space. So you put a list together of the 10 most important ideas. It could be, when I opened up Blowfish, one of the things that challenges was that because we wanted a really big bar and we wanted to maximize dining space, that meant that we didn't have enough washroom space for the washroom in the back. So what did we do? We were supposed to, because of the size of the restaurant, we were supposed to have 2 women's washrooms and 2 men's washrooms. So that was the challenge. So what did we do? We decided to make the washrooms unisex. So now, instead of 4 washrooms and the costs of making them, we just needed 2. And they could just come in and use, men and women could use both washrooms. And it worked out for us. But you have to ask yourself, what of your ideas? You have this beautiful drawing that your amateur boyfriend painter did, right? And there's nowhere in this tiny space that's going to fit that drawing. Are you willing to let it go, right? And those are the kind of issues that's going to come up because every single space creates very specific problems regarding your ideas. You'll never be able to fulfill all of your ideas in a space. That's very important. So think about those stuff that you're willing to let go. Okay?
第6点就是空间设计。餐馆的空间设计如何设计？如果是第一次做餐馆的话呢，强烈建议大家找专业的设计公司来帮你做设计。那么在空间设计方面呢，其实特别显示了你是不是一个很强势的人。他用 ego 可以说自我意识，也可以说你的过度自信，也可以说是你是不是一个强势的人，是不是想把自己的理念完全就是投入到这个生意当中。所以这个 ego 会在这个空间设计方面呢起到一个很大的一个影响。那么在空间设计呢，其实要有舍，也会有得，不要把自己所有的想法一次性都在这个空间得到一个实现，必定要做一个牺牲和一个 compromise。对，建议大家列出一个表来，就是我们到底想要什么，从1到10到20，然后其中最重要的留下来，可有可无的要去掉，不可能一次性把你所有的好的想法在一个空间展示出来。比如说，在一个餐馆当中，什么对于你来说是重要的？是厨房还是洗手间？很多第一次做餐馆的人呢，他们希望他们的餐馆能够表现得非常，把自己的理念带出来。而餐馆的这个后厨呢，通常是不为人所见的，所以呢，他们在厨房放的功夫和这个成本反而很少。但是对于他来说呢，其实厨房是灵魂。那么在做空间设计的时候，餐馆设计的时候呢，首位考虑的是餐馆的这个后厨。对于他来说呢，第2位考虑的可能是这个吃饭的空间，第3呢，他考虑的可能是酒吧这样的空间。所以在空间设计方面呢，太大其实也一种障碍，太小呢，同时我们就要有这种放弃的这种勇气。那比如说他在做 Blowfish 的时候，因为餐馆的大小呢，需要有2个男洗手间和2个女洗手间，那么空间实际上非常狭窄，如何才能达到这个目的？后来他们就做了这种 unisex 的这种就是不分男女的这种洗手间。那么在做洗手间的时候呢，那比如说你有一个非常漂亮的一个画，你想挂在这里面，可是空间又很狭窄，但是这个画对于你来说意义又很重大，可能呢它是你的男朋友或者女朋友画的， 你想把这个理念要带出来，但是这个画呢，它在这个可能不适合，可能很突兀，所以像这种各种各样的你的想法和空间设计的这种客观的这个存在的要求放在一起的时候呢，大家一定要想好了，就是列好表格，是不是你想要的就一定要在里面，还是要根据空间设计这种客观性，然后来决定自己是舍还是得。
So, capital. I mean, this is, for a lot of you, this is the most important part of it. When you run a successful restaurant, you don't need a business plan to draw investors. Because the truth is, investors will just come throwing money at you. There's no question about how that happens. But the business plan is always for you. It's not for them. The first time you open a restaurant, you need a very clear plan. And that plan is the thing that's going to take you from A to your finished product. If it's done well and you need investors, the plan is critical for that. This is one thing that I tell people who are building a budget for startup costs is this. I tell them every line item, add 10 to 15%. And that's your number, okay? Because especially if you're at the beginning and somebody in your first business and somebody says, hey, you know, I have a cousin who does plumbing, right? And he'll charge you only $10,000. When you know that the market for that is $15,000, right? I'll tell you, most of the times your friend's cousin is going to cost you $20,000. So, and there's so many things that in the startup of a restaurant your first time that you don't anticipate. It's like you know, you have to break a wall because that wall is going to be the opening between, it's the pass-through between the kitchen and the bar, right? And you think all I have to do is just cut out that wall, that's going to cost about $1,000. Cut it out, tile it, and it's fine. But then what you realize is as you start cutting through it, there are all these wires and things like that. Now you need an electrician to get involved in it. And these are the things that that you need to be able to anticipate. That's why I say every line item, if you can pull it off in a business plan that will draw investors, I'd say 15% is about as high as you should go. But you know, 10 to 15% mark it up, because those are that 10 to 15% is what's going to cover you with a lot of unexpected problems. The restaurant business is such that the vast majority, 90% of restaurant businesses, you can negotiate that the partners are just mere investors, but the truth is this: they're not investing in a hedge fund where you call them once a month. They're investing in a restaurant that's where they're a partner. And so, of course, they're going to bring their family and their friends to come and eat at it. Your choice, to go back, your choice of partner is very, very critical, because most partners will, when the business is not doing well or the business is doing too well, most partners will come in and act like they know everything about the business, right? And so silent partnerships are going to be very difficult to pull off, but you want to develop a basic kind of trust and understanding with them about what their involvement is. Your job is to just, when I need money, to infuse capital into the business. That's your job, right? These are the days when you can bring your family and friends in, right? But you can't speak to my servers, you can't speak to my managers. You gotta just come in, you gotta leave, and try to keep them to that. The other thing about the budget is there's the startup costs, and then there's the opening operational costs, and they're much, much higher than you think they are. Everyone thinks that if they build a beautiful restaurant, they open the door, and people are just going to come charging in. And that never happens. So what I say, that's why the failure rate in Toronto is that most restaurants, 60% of restaurants fail after the second year. And part of the problem is because of the first 6 months. They don't anticipate losses so severe in the first 6 months. A good operation is gonna take 6 months to the first 6 months to the 12th month to start recovering the cost of that first 6-month loss. And so what I say to you is make sure that you're in your budget, you're thinking about, depending what the sale is, but you're thinking always about losses. Usually about, I don't know, with some restaurateurs, they're able to cover from other parts of their business or other businesses or other locations. But I say to you, think of 25% loss month over month the first 6 months. And that's still challenging, but there's a certain figure. Once you start thinking from 15% to 25% loss, you start thinking about all of your pieces differently. If you're thinking about a budget where the first 6 months operating cost is 50%, you don't think about labor, your staff, you don't think about food and your suppliers the same way. So you want to keep it kind of close, where you're always kind of on that line. You say, my target is only to lose 25%. So then, if you're at a 30% loss, what are those things that you have to cut? What are the things that you have to trim? And it forces you into thinking about those kind of operational issues.
那么在资金方面呢，如何来计算餐馆的预留资金、启动资金和运营资金？那么在写商业计划书的时候呢，不论是给你的投资者，还是给自己，或者是给你的这个整个运营团队，来做这个计划书的时候呢，可能我们要把你所有的预算加起来之后，再打出一个15%，10%到15%的富裕。为什么呢？特别是对第一次的这个餐馆经营者来说呢，通常都会超出预算。所以不要把事情呢想得太理想化。比如说你有的时候要打一个墙，那么打墙的时候，你想可能1000块钱就可以打了，但是你把这个墙打开之后，发现里面都是线，这个时候呢就不光是一个建筑的这个工人来做了，可能你还需要电工了。这个时候的预算就会增加了，所以会有很多这种意想不到的情况。那么一定要给自己预留出来比较富裕的资金，不然可能你就会捉襟见肘了。那你可能又要去面对着我怎么样跟这个投资商去交代呀，我怎么再去把这个15%的资金能够拿到手里啊？所以呢，在不论如何，就是在做商业计划书的时候，一定要给自己的预算预留出足够的空间。还有呢，他就说又回到了寻找合作伙伴这个方面。那么在寻找合作伙伴方面呢，当然有合作伙伴很好，有充裕的资金很好，但是呢，这些合作伙伴他带来的不光是他个人的这个理念，可能呢他还带来了很多东西，除非你跟你的这个合作伙伴说好了，你只是投资，不可以对我这个生意指手画脚。特别是你的生意做得不好的时候，他会就是说 all over the place， 他会觉得他什么都懂了，反而会给你呢很多指示和指导。那么这时候呢，你之前就要界定好界限，比如说你可以来我的餐馆，可以看，可以跟我谈，但是呢，你不可以跟我的这个服务员谈，不可以跟我的大厨去谈，所以一定要界定好。他虽然投资了，但是他的权利到哪儿，他的责任到哪儿，这是一个很重要的一点。另外呢，就是在资金的这个储备方面，在启动资金和运营资金的这个方面呢，都要做好充分的准备。特别是他说，在多伦多的餐馆业呢是非常激烈的这样一种竞争，60%的餐馆呢在运营到第2年的时候，基本上就亏本了，或者是关闭了。那么为什么有这么高的一个失败率呢？可能就是他们在资金方面没有做好充足的这种想法和准备。特别是开业的前6个月，这个是至关重要的。通常在这个前6个月呢，在运营的时候，不是像大家想象的，一开门就会宾客盈门。那么要做很多的运营啊、市场啊和磨合这个团队的工作。那么在这个里面呢，可能前6个月我们要打算好，就是有25%的是亏损。那么25%这个数字呢也很重要。如果你想的是10%、15%和20%到25%，这通常呢都会有一个很大的期待值的不同。如果你想好的是25%，但是呢，实际上前6个月的亏损每个月达到30%，这个时候你可能要坐下来去看哪些地方是我们可以把这个能够减低这个浪费，提高这个效率等等，我们用各种不同的方法和手段去想，来把我们这个25%，你 定好这个想法之后呢，要达到，然后再慢慢的通过第1年的这个过程，6到12个月来慢慢的把这个成本能够回本。那么刚才我还补充一点，我刚才忘说了，他说在这个空间设计那个部分，他说到一个椅子的问题，就是说要看你们的品类。如果你希望人呢就是翻台率很快的话，椅子可能你要给他一个比较硬的呀，坐的时间不长的。如果你希望这个顾客呢坐在这边消费酒水啊、酒品呢，那你可能要给他一个非常舒服的座椅啊。这个刚才我没有提到。
Okay. This food and beverage. This is the obvious. This is the one. This is the thing that you think is the reason why you're getting into the business, and you think somehow the food and beverage program you're offering is the thing that's going to drive people to your restaurant over and over again. And the answer is no, it's not. It's just part of so many other things. But when you're thinking about your menu, it's really, really critical that you understand the strengths and weaknesses of you as a chef or as your partner who happens to be the chef. The other thing that I say to people is build in what I call structural flexibility within your kitchen. In other words, if you're doing let's say a chicken wing place, right? For me, if you're doing a chicken wing place, 3,000 square feet, 100 seats, and you decide that you are going to just have 4 deep fryers. So you invest in 4 deep fryers, right? You have to be able to think, okay, all I thought was about the chicken wings, and I have a chef who does great chicken wings, right? The chef is my partner, so he's not going to leave, right? But for some reason, not everybody wants just chicken wings. So what do? Right? If you haven't planned that, what I would have done is I would have just put 3 or 2 deep fryers with space to allow for a connection for 2 more in the event that we need it, right? And then I would make sure that there's a good stovetop grill, a nice range. Because although you didn't think about being able to do the chicken in different ways, you need to make that a calculation. Because let's say roast chicken, rotisserie chicken, becomes more popular at your restaurant. That space in between where there's that space where you thought you were going to put extra chicken wing deep fryers, now you could put an additional stove extension.